Hello folks and welcome back to my channel. It is another chatty get ready with me today, and this is one that I'm really excited about. So if you saw my post a little while back in November or October, I think it was November, in November, about the front of house scholarship, you know that I run a front of house specific scholarship for the piercing industry, for APP conference, for folks who are front of house to go and attend and get continuing education and just kind of further their career. And when I posted and announced this scholarship, for folks in the industry, you know, very exciting. But I realized that a lot of folks not in the industry were not super familiar with the front of house position or what it entails, or that it is its really own like full-fledged career path in piercing. So today I wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about the front of house position, what it is, what it does, why it's amazing, why it's important, all that good stuff. So to start, you may hear this position referred to by a couple of different names. I personally tend to use front of house and back of house when I'm talking about like people who I work with and at studios I've worked at. That's just kind of the language I've generally used. Back in the day, it was like counter staff. However, the term counter staff also is very derivative from like counter girl and counter guy, and if someone like chooses that like counter staff is the word that they prefer for themselves, that's fine. But there definitely can be a negative connotation with counter staff, specifically counter girl, especially in a lot of more old school style tattoo shops. So me personally, I have kind of avoided that language because some people don't like it. But you know, it's up to how they want to call their position. And then in some studios, you'll see them referred to as jewelry stylists, especially in studios where jewelry styling is like a very big part of their job description. But you know, counter staff, front of house, jewelry stylist, these are all terms that describe a relatively similar position within the industry that can have variance based off of like the studio you're working in, your skill set, the tasks that are expected of you, all that good stuff. Now, the big question is always like, well, what does this position entail? And it does entail some like traditional front end tasks, the biggest being like checking clients in and out of the studio, getting clients going on paperwork, answering client phone calls, just like a lot of client facing interaction. However, before we even get into all the other things front of house does, these client facing interactions, just like as a baseline, are super important. You see me talk all the time about like how important like proper identification for piercing is. Like it's the law, it's an insurance requirement. Front of house is who is accepting that identification and checking it, making sure that people are the age that they say they are getting the piercing that they want. They're handling all of the paperwork, which is like legally and for record keeping really important in studios. But it's also really important to client interaction. Front of house is who's seeing that paperwork first. They see when clients put down that they have allergies. They see what pronouns clients are putting down. They see anything clients put in their notes, and they relay that information to piercers and tattoo artists. And they're very integral in making sure clients have a really good experience using proper pronouns, understanding why they're there, letting us know about any allergies, but also just in doing like very important work for the studio with ID and paperwork that's really important for legal reasons and record keeping. Other tasks that front of house does that a lot of folks expect are, you know, a lot of cleaning tasks, typically keeping general spaces in the studio clean. So like keeping the lobby clean, cleaning the jewelry cases, you know, cleaning the bathrooms, important cleaning tasks. And while, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily find cleaning tasks to be very fun, they're super important, especially in an environment like a piercing studio where it needs to be really clean. Where it gets really exciting and fun outside of, and not that, you know, paperwork and like organizational skills and client interactions and answering phones can't be fun. But I know for most folks that's not what's fun. But what I think is really the coolest part is jewelry pick out and styling. And especially in the last like 5 to 10 years, this has become a huge part of the job for front of house, and really, really good front of house in really good, really busy studios do 100% of the styling. What I mean when I say styling is literally all of the like picking out, deciding placement, picking out pieces for new piercings, especially when we're talking about curated ears and like big fancy ears. Styling is who's taking the time to like map out and design those piercings and those placements, pick out the right jewelry, design gold pieces. And honestly, in the vast majority of studios, that task falls to front of house and more specifically jewelry stylists, because studios formatted like that, their front of house are most often jewelry stylists. For example, I was just guesting at Cowpoke, and I think out of many studios online, they are some of the most well-known for their absolutely stellar jewelry stylist team. Phenomenal. If you go into Cowpoke for a piercing, you are going to be greeted by one of their literally so talented stylists up front who's going to go over piercing options with you, jewelry styles, placement. They might grab me from the back to just look at your ear and be like, yeah, you can get an industrial. No, we should do something different. But other than that, front of house is going to do everything. They are going to help you pick out what piercings you're going to get, what placements they're going to be in, what jewelry you want to use, and then they're going to relay all of that information back to the piercer. And if you're really passionate about like styling and jewelry placement and like picking out all of those things, honestly, front of house might be more of a career for you than piercing, really depending on who you are as a person. Because front of house really is taking care of all of those styling tasks. And honestly, it's better that way. It really is. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Lynn, 5-10 years ago, like piercers did all the styling. I went into a studio and my piercer picked out my jewelry and my placement and everything with me up front, then sterilized stuff and brought me back and pierced me. And you would be correct. That was the, model for the industry for a very, very, very long time. That was actually what I used to do for many years. I was a lead stylist and junior piercer at 2 different studios that I worked at. And that was my primary task, was styling. But let me tell you, it is a monumental, I cannot stress this enough, a monumental amount of work to keep up with current trends in piercing and styling and current jewelry trends and know what's popular, what works, what doesn't work, what colors are in, what stones are in, what cuts are in, what chains, what charms, what the style is, what people like, right? That in and of itself is a huge amount of effort. Then couple that with keeping up with the studio's inventory, right? So knowing off the top of your head what pieces you've got in stock from what companies, what pieces they complement, what pieces they work well with, what pieces they don't, what size everything is in, what gauge, what diameter, so you know where you can put it. And also a lot of pricing just right off the top of your head. So when a client comes in and is like, hey, I have, whatever, a $500 budget, in your brain, you're already like, okay, well, I know I have this piece in the gold color my client wants, and that's $150. And then I've got these 2 different pieces that will complement, but this one is going to be a little bit more, we'll be pushing the budget. This one will be a little bit less. And there's just so much to keep in your brain. And while I managed to do that, while I was working as both a stylist and a piercer, what I realized when I transitioned to working as just a piercer, because here's the thing, I thought I was going to really, really miss styling when I transitioned to working at studios where I was just piercing. I was certain I was going to really miss styling. I went to those studios and I started working as just a piercer and not doing too much styling up front. And wow, there was a whole lot more room in my brain to focus on piercing techniques and piercing skills when I wasn't filling my brain with that jewelry knowledge. Not to say that I don't still retain jewelry knowledge, but having a near textbook memory of all of the pieces that were currently in stock and their price points and the orders that were coming in and what was trendy and popular right now, it was taking up a lot of mental storage that I was able to replace with piercing techniques and bedside manner concepts and piercing projects I wanted to work on. And truly, I believe, gave me the space to really excel as a piercer because I could focus so much more thoroughly on what was going on in the piercing room and on my techniques and not having to focus so much on what was going on up front. And if you are someone who is interested or passionate about the jewelry side of things in the industry and styling and curating different ears, a stylist position may well be super perfect for you. But front of house also expands past that. In many studios, front of house are also like photographers and social media managers. So they take a lot of the really beautiful pictures of jewelry you see online. Many studios will teach their front of house photography skills as part of being trained for front of house. You get to learn how to use a nice fancy camera, how to use a light box, how to take pictures of jewelry, how to take pictures of piercings, what angles to look for. And by extension, a lot of front of house are also social media managers. So they're posting on Instagram for the studio. They're, helping clients with messages. They're doing a lot of really important behind the scenes management that is its own like phenomenally important skill set. It's worth being paid more for. Front of house who also do social media work and photography definitely make a little bit more money than front of house who don't. And it's just like a very useful skill set that translates in a lot of different areas. Beyond that, with many studios having like online stores now, front of house also often tend to manage that. And they also tend to do a lot of inventory and merchandising. And let me tell you a secret, at least if you're me, merchandising is one of the best parts about working in the studio. Getting in a whole big new shipment of jewelry and getting to enter it all in the inventory, and as part of that process, like photograph all the pieces and looking at those pieces under that magnification, underneath that macro lens, and getting to like really appreciate the craftsmanship and the quality of these pieces. Like my favorite thing when an order came in was to just inventory it and sit down in front of the light box and photograph it and just bask in how beautiful it is. Love, love, love it. But then you get to merchandise it. You get to put it out on the displays. You get to look at all the different pieces that you have and, see what you've got in stock, see what's sold, see what works well together. You get to kind of pre-plan and be like, okay, we got these two pieces in with these complementary gemstones, and I really hope they go together. I'm going to like tuck this knowledge away in my brain, and the next client that comes in looking for like a set of something in rose gold, like I know we've got these and I really want to pair them together. So you get to just really play with and enjoy the jewelry so much. And the thing is, there are some studios that are smaller studios where a piercer is doing all of this as well, but I definitely think in most busier, bigger studios, it's front of house doing this. Most smaller studios want to eventually have front of house to do this, and the way the industry is heading is that like front of house are they're just such a staple. And the thing is, with front of house doing all of these tasks, that gives piercers time to pierce and to work on piercing techniques and to be better piercers. So it's huge. Piercers couldn't do what we do and operate at the level we operate at without the help of our support staff, without the help of front of house, taking a lot of these tasks off our plate that have been traditionally assigned to piercers that have just caused us to be overworked and burnt out and just not really have the time to spend focusing on our technique and our technical abilities. Now, with the industry realizing how important front of house is, how much work they do for a studio, how much they help a studio run smoother and easier, and how much money they make a studio by freeing up piercers more time to pierce and tattoo artists more time to tattoo, front of house, especially I would say in the last 4 to 7 years, has really become its own career position in good studios, and that is starting to spread throughout the industry. Folks are realizing that front of house are essential and that they need to be treated that way and they need to be compensated that way. Now, compensation is always going to vary place by place, studio by studio, state by state, but a common model of pay for front of house looks like a base hourly wage. So whatever you make an hour, it's usually not a super high hourly wage. A lot of studios I see have front of house anywhere from like $17 to like $22 an hour. However, that is because front of house also tend to make commissions. So you make a commission on the jewelry you sell, and commission varies studio to studio. Some studios, it's just like a flat 3% on every single thing you sell. Some studios only do commission on gold, but it's 5 to 10% on gold. Some studios do individual commission, but a lot of studios do like a combined commission. That way there's not like competitiveness between front of house, just like all of the sales done, everyone gets a cut of that commission. So if one person's selling really well, the whole team is doing really well. And don't knock commission-based pay. There are some studios I know where front of house take home anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month in commission. They are on it. They are making good money, as they should, for the very important and very crucial job that they are doing. Obviously, everywhere is different, and I will say that I think in general, front of house pay is lower than what I personally think it should be. I was just having this conversation the other day with a colleague, and I really think that if someone is like just a general front of house, they should easily be making like $50,000 to $70,000 a year. And if a front of house is really like doing the extra, they're doing photography, they're doing social media, they're helping with inventory, they're working with the online store, they're working with merch, they're just like doing more of these like fully fleshed things, like 80 to 90,000 a year. Easy. If a studio is busy, if a studio is making money, and the front of house is doing so much with commissions and sales and client interaction, like that should be a reasonable salary for a front of house to make in a lot of areas of the country. Now, again, this is very variable based on where you live and the cost of living in your area. That salary does not go very far in certain parts of California, and it goes super far in areas of the Midwest. So, you know, there's a variance there based off those things. But front of house really should and really does like make good money, and the industry is heading more and more in that direction like every single year, as far as like acknowledging how important front of house is and really compensating adequately for that. And what I appreciate about that is that there are a lot of people who want to work in the piercing industry and be in the industry, but piercing is just not for them, which is okay. But I know a lot of people who now like want to be in the industry but don't really want to pierce for a bevy of reasons, or quite frankly like wouldn't make great piercers. And I've known in the past quite a few piercers who were piercers and were okay, they were proficient, but they weren't super happy about doing it. They didn't love it, but they did love all of these other tasks that came with it being a piercer. They enjoyed inventory, they enjoyed the jewelry, they enjoyed the social media aspects of it, they enjoyed the photography. And front of house is a position that lets you enjoy all of that. It still lets you have a ton of client interaction if that's your thing. Like, you're literally doing all of the styling, all of the pick out. My front of house has regulars that come in to see the front of house specifically, and then I'm just the person who does the piercings. Like, I just come out from the back and I'm like, hi, I know you're here for Rob, and they picked out everything for you and it's beautiful. I'm just here to put the piercings very exactly where they tell me to, and that is all I'm here for. And I love it. 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 It makes me so happy to see this position becoming its own career path in the industry. I think it's always been something super important. It allows for more equitable division of labor. I mean, it is just, especially in busy studios, unrealistic to have piercers doing all of these things and piercing and expecting us to pierce at a really high proficiency level all day long. If I'm trying to enter inventory in between clients, get everyone going on paperwork, answer the phone, and do a bunch of really complicated advanced piercings all day, something somewhere is gonna give, and I'm either gonna like mess up on someone's paperwork, miss the phone a couple times, or piercing is going to come out wrong. And that is just a lot of stress to put on a piercer's plate. So front of house, absolute lifesavers when it comes to dealing with that sort of thing. But the other thing I like about it is that a lot of people online talk to me about wanting to be in the industry, but having, you know, certain hesitancies surrounding actually doing piercings, certain things that make them nervous about working on people's bodies, and certain traumas that make it hard for them to offer all piercings or work with all clients. And it is valid. It is valid to have those feelings and have those concerns and have those like blocks. But at the same time, if that presents itself in such a way where it would do a disservice to you as a piercer, or it would prevent you from like giving your clients the best experience possible, or working with all clients who are deserving of these experiences with you, front of house is a really great alternative that still allows you to work in the industry, that still allows you to do a lot of amazing work. But if you have trauma that centers around like working on people's bodies or working closely with people, or you know, you just don't do well with the sight of blood, or maybe you really love the thought of being a piercer, but you just do not have a comforting personality and you would struggle with like the interpersonal communication element of piercing and like keeping clients calm and comfortable. Front of house is great. Front of house is its own career path that you can make a very successful living at. I think over the coming years, we're going to see more front of house positions open in better studios that have better pay, better benefits. Like, this is a career path that you can take for yourself and spend your whole life, like, building a career out of and make honestly like pretty good money at. So it is such a good option for people who are interested in being in the piercing industry, but maybe not sure if actually piercing is what's right for them. And like the other big thing, I like kind of touched on this earlier, but I just have to mention it again. Like, front of house truly are the trendsetters. Like, when you see these cool ears cropping up on social media that are getting like so many likes, and they're like inspiring trends of new piercings and trends of jewelry and things like that, front of house are 100% behind that. In many ways, more so than piercers. Like Chloe DeSimone, Brianna Sheehan, Danny Greenwood, those are the people responsible for a lot of the trends in piercing, a lot of the popular stones you're seeing, a lot of the popular piercing placements you're seeing, and those are all phenomenally talented jewelry stylists and front of house who are doing that. So in this position, you also really get to steer the direction of the industry, because front of house, they're killing it. Man, they're deciding what's popular and what's not. I really wanted to sit down and like make this quick little chatty get ready with me and talk about this, because I think there is not enough acknowledgement of just truly how crucial and important front of house is in this industry, especially not from a lot of piercers. And I think the more we acknowledge and carve out a space for front of house to be its own career path and its own position, it's just going to benefit everyone in the industry. It's going to benefit piercers who can focus more on piercing and on refining their techniques and being great piercers. It's going to help studios run so much more smoothly and honestly make so much more money, take so many more services in a day, be so much more on top of social media and photography and all of that stuff. And it allows more people opportunities to be in the industry, especially people for whom piercing is not really what they want to do, but for so long felt like that was the only way to exist in the industry. It helps us so much more in finding people who have organized, creative, unique mindsets and mentalities to influence trends, to influence jewelry and gemstones, to bring a better level of organization and legitimacy to the industry. Help when it comes to things like taxes and bookkeeping and financial planning. Like, we have a shortage of people with good minds for these things in the industry, and the opportunities that more legitimized front of house positions offer really allows us to bring more people in like this and allows the entire industry to benefit. And it just creates more jobs and more accessible jobs for so many amazing people. Like, let's not forget how many people want to be in the piercing industry, but piercing is so physical. It's so much with your hands. It's so much with your back and body. It's so much with your eyes. Front of house is a position that can be a little bit more accommodating to people of all different abilities, all different body types, all different skill sets, to allow them to still exist in an industry that they love and they're passionate about in a way that's really accessible to their needs. So everything about the front of house position from start to finish, like, literally so amazing, so important. I love every front of house person, like, from the bottom of my heart. I just want to pick you all up and keep you in my pocket and just walk around with you all day. Phenomenal, amazing, never been done before, incredible. And yeah, so I just want to share information about this position and really encourage people who are interested in getting in the industry to consider this as a very legitimate path if it's something that calls to them, and also to encourage piercers and studios to really treat your front of house well, pay your front of house well, give them benefits, nurture them, and they will do so much for your business in return. As always, it was awesome sitting down and chatting with y'all today. This is like just a skincare get ready with me because I'm about to go take our cat Olive to the vet. And then just run some errands today. Then tiny little life update. So most of you probably don't know this about me, but in high school I was very into video games, and more specifically I was very into World of Warcraft, and I played very competitively for a number of years, like literally scheduled on my calendar. I stepped away from that to focus on my apprenticeship and focus on my career, and just kind of haven't touched it again because I haven't felt like I've had the time and just like a whole bunch of factors. But as of now, I am starting to get back into it, which is really nerve-wracking but really exciting to like reconnect with those old hobbies and learn to build a work-life separation and do things that aren't just body piercing. So as of me filming this, the new expansion pack launches literally tonight. I'm filming it on Monday that the X pack comes out, and I'm just so excited for that and to play again, and I just want to share that little crumb of my life with you because you are like kind of like my friends and my family, and it is really, really exciting for me to be getting back into video games, and it's just been a hobby of mine that I have neglected for such an incredibly long time due to an abundance of factors. But yeah, so I'm gonna be playing that tonight and not just filming videos and writing content and doing piercing related stuff all day for once. And I'm really excited. So it's just a skincare look today because I'm just going to the vet and then I'm gonna be playing video games until like 4 a.m. So we gotta really nurture and hydrate the skin since we're gonna be staying up late. But yeah, I hope everyone has a really phenomenal day and I cannot wait to sit down and chat with y'all again soon. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!